You ever scroll through the news thinking, alright, nothing can surprise me anymore, and then Joe Rogan shows up and says, hold my podcast mic? Yeah, buckle up, because this time, Joe didn't just question the narrative, he drop-kicked it off the table. We're talking about Charlie Kirk's mysterious death, his oddly calm widow, and a story that's unraveling faster than a politician's promise during campaign season. Oh, and the internet? It's absolutely feral. Hashtags everywhere, fans stunned, conspiracies multiplying like YouTube ads. But let's start at the top before this story goes full Netflix documentary. You know things are about to get wild when Joe Rogan, the internet's unfiltered uncle, looks dead into the camera and says, something's off here. That single sentence detonated across social media like a digital bomb. Within minutes, his podcast clip was being shared faster than conspiracy memes during an election year. And this wasn't your average Rogan asks questions moment. No, this was Rogan in full investigative chaos mode, the same energy that makes the FBI's PR department break into a cold sweat. He started calmly, sipping his black coffee like a man about to ruin someone's day, and dropped it. The Charlie Kirk story doesn't make sense. It's got more holes than Swiss cheese. Boom, that was it. One sentence, and the internet absolutely lost it. Twitter, or X, whatever Elon's calling it this week, went nuclear. Hashtags like #Rogan questions everything, #Kirk mystery, and #cover up or coincidence started trending globally. Reddit lit up like a Christmas tree at 2 a.m., with armchair detectives posting zoomed-in screenshots, analyzing lighting angles, bullet trajectories, and FBI press releases like they were in an episode of CSI Utah. Rogan didn't just challenge the official story, he turned it inside out, shaking it like a snow globe. He pointed out inconsistencies that mainstream outlets conveniently tiptoed around. The too perfect suspect arrest, the magically missing footage, and the weapon that somehow aged backward overnight from modern rifle to museum piece. And in classic Rogan fashion, he tossed in that dry, half-sarcastic line that sent every comment section spiraling. So a college kid with no gun history suddenly turns into Jason Bourne using a 100-year-old rifle? Sure, totally normal. That clip alone pulled millions of views within hours. Influencers reacted to his reaction, podcasters debated his tone, and even rival commentators, left, right, and somewhere in between, started using the phrase Swiss cheese story like it was the new fake news. And here's the kicker. Joe didn't even present a theory, he just asked questions. The right ones. But that's all it took. The world didn't just listen, it chose sides. On one end, people called him brave for saying what everyone else was thinking. On the other, critics accused him of fueling chaos. But by then, it didn't matter. The internet had chosen its gladiator. Overnight, Rogan transformed from commentator to catalyst, and the Charlie Kirk story stopped being a headline. It became a full-blown cultural earthquake. But as the dust settled and Rogan's words echoed across every timeline, one voice decided to turn the spark into a bonfire. Because when Candace Owens enters the chat, you know things are about to go from suspicious to straight up explosive. When the internet was still reeling from Rogan's mic drop, Candace Owens crashed in like an electric storm. She didn't just observe, she pounced. While most commentators tiptoe, Candace spoke in full war mode. I think Tyler Robinson was framed. That sentence alone pivoted the narrative from did this happen to who made it happen. She dropped leaks, timelines, alleged chats, receipts so heavy you could almost hear them hitting the table. Her argument? The evidence doesn't match the story we've been sold. She questioned language and texts attributed to Tyler, calling them not his voice. Words like vehicle and perpetrator felt too formal, too polished, too out of place for a 22-year-old student. She raised the odd timing of key communications. Why were internal turning point emails disappearing hours after Charlie's death? She pointed to the strange behavior of staffers, folks leaving abruptly, systems locked down, audit trails missing, and perhaps the boldest twist, she claimed the same older man Rogan flagged, the mystery man, had been spotted at multiple major national incidents. The pattern, she argued, is no coincidence. Rolled the narrative after Charlie was gone, and yet as Candace's firestorm raged, another part of this story was quietly grinding. The weapon shift, the varying photos, and the physical gaps in the official tale. That's when we moved into fact 3, the rifle that broke physics. Now this is where the story leaves reality, grabs a Red Bull, and does a backflip. Joe Rogan wasn't joking when he said the whole rifle part made 0 sense. 1 minute, mainstream outlets were showing a clean, modern, tactical-looking weapon, something you'd expect to see in a hunting catalog or a Call of Duty loadout. Then, poof, Overnight, it morphed into a refurbished World War I rifle, supposedly over 100 years old. Yeah, because apparently, history buffs are now pulling off sniper shots that would make John Wick jealous. Rogan's take? So we're saying a college kid with no firearms background somehow restores an antique museum piece, calibrates it like a NASA engineer, and fires it with the precision of a trained marksman? Uh-huh, sure. And next you'll tell me he reassembled the Titanic for fun. What really had people choking on their popcorn was the timeline. Early crime scene photos that circulated online looked modern. Polymer stock, synthetic grip, sleek lines, basically the kind of gun that says engineered this decade. But within hours, those images disappeared from news sites, replaced by fuzzy black and white photos of a dusty old bolt-action relic. The captions changed too. Suddenly words like antique, family heirloom, historical firearms started appearing like someone hit rewrite on the entire script. The online sleuths went berserk. Reddit threads turned into full-blown forensics labs. People zooming in, analyzing shadows, comparing serial numbers, debating barrel lengths. One viral post summed it up perfectly. If this rifle's from World War I, then my iPhone's from the Civil War. Meanwhile, Rogan was roasting the contradictions live. They're saying this guy rebuilt a century-old weapon and hit a moving target. That's not a suspect. That's Tony Stark. And when Rogan said, the story's got more holes than Swiss cheese, fans ran with it. Memes, reels, even a trending hashtag, #SwissCheeseStory. It wasn't just skepticism anymore. It was mockery. The physics didn't line up, the timeline didn't line up, and frankly, the weapon didn't line up. Even basic ballistic experts online pointed out that a genuine one rifle firing that cleanly would have needed custom parts, advanced tools, and months of restoration. Not a YouTube tutorial and a weekend in someone's garage. So either Tyler Robinson was secretly an arms manufacturing prodigy, or, as Rogan implied, someone swapped the story halfway through to fit a new narrative. Because when every piece of evidence starts editing itself, that's not an investigation, that's a production. But if the rifle was deja vu in steel form, wait till you hear what came next. Texts, timestamps, and a digital breadcrumb trail that didn't just raise eyebrows. It blew the lid clean off. Buckle up, because fact 4 is where this mystery starts texting back. Okay, this is where the plot starts to feel like a bad sequel to The Truman Show, because apparently there's one guy out there who just can't resist showing up at every major American crisis like he's collecting frequent flyer miles for chaos. Joe Rogan dropped this one like a bomb. He said, "You've got this older dude, right? He's there at the scene yelling stuff like, 'I did it, I did it.'" And somehow, this same guy has been spotted at 9/11's, the Boston Marathon, and now Charlie Kirk's Quanda. Excuse me, what kind of resume is that? Professional eyewitness, part-time decoy, full-time walking red flag. The internet lost its collective mind. Within hours, Reddit detectives and Twitter sleuths, experts, were dropping side-by-side screenshots like they were assembling a Marvel conspiracy chart. Same face, same build, same just happens to be there energy. One post went viral with the caption, "Either this dude's immortal or he's got a side gig as America's most suspicious extra." But here's where things got really suspicious. Days after the Kirk incident, this man was suddenly arrested on, get this, unrelated child porn charges. Yeah, the timing was too perfect. Right when journalists were starting to dig deeper, boom, he's in custody, silenced, off the grid. No press interviews, no statements, no follow-ups. It was like someone hit the mute button on a key witness. Joe Rogan called it a move straight out of a spy movie. He said, "The timing's too clean. It's like they just took a chess piece off the board." That one line became legend. Within hours, clips of that quote spread across social media like wildfire. Memes popped up calling the guy Crisis Carl, a man who somehow always seems to be coincidentally standing 5 feet from national tragedy. And here's the part that gave everyone chills. Multiple users dug up emergency call logs and archived footage where this same individual could allegedly be heard or seen near past disasters. Not exactly proof, but enough breadcrumbs to make even the skeptics go, okay, that's weird. Some theorized he was a decoy, a deliberate distraction meant to confuse eyewitness accounts and steer narratives. Others said he was a crisis actor actor, someone hired to create noise so the real story could slip away unnoticed. Either way, the pattern was undeniable. And then, as if scripted by Netflix, the story vanished from headlines overnight. No mainstream coverage, no official update, nothing. It was like this man had evaporated. The last anyone heard was that he was in custody pending investigation. That's it. Meanwhile, the internet turned him into a ghost. Threads full of grainy photos, blurred screenshots, and whispers of cover-ups. Who is he? Why was he there? And why does he keep appearing in moments that shape the national narrative? Joe Rogan's fans summed it up perfectly. This guy's either the unluckiest bystander in America or part of something way bigger than we're allowed to know. But if that gave you chills, hold on tight, because the next twist doesn't just question who was there. It questions what they were covering up. Up next. Fact 5. The audit that no one was supposed to see. And trust me, this one's got more missing zeros, mystery money, and political smoke than a DC backroom deal. Now, if the mystery man felt like a thriller subplot, this next part is the political version of Follow the Money, because apparently, right before Charlie Kirk's untimely death, and I mean days before, he was allegedly gearing up to do something that could have rocked his entire empire. We're talking about an audit, but not just any audit. The kind that makes billionaires sweat and PR teams start drafting unexpected resignation press releases. Candace Owens was the first to drop this bombshell. During one of her viral live streams, hair flawless, tone lethal, she leaned in and said this wasn't routine bookkeeping. Charlie was preparing to expose millions, yes, millions of dollars that had disappeared inside Turning Point USA. Cue the internet going nuclear. Because Turning Point isn't just a college tour brand, it's a political cash machine, big donors, even bigger egos, and a PR budget that could make Hollywood jealous. So when Candace said there were missing funds and shadow projects tied to undisclosed media firms, people started connecting dots like they were solving a national treasure map. And then it got worse. She hinted that Charlie's audit wasn't just about missing money. It was about a secretive internal unit that allegedly operated like a mini intelligence agency. Think hush-hush data gathering, donor tracking, and reputation management. Basically, the political version of cleaning house with bleach. Now, here's the creepy part. Right after news of this audit surfaced, multiple staffers at Turning Point USA abruptly resigned. No press statements, no LinkedIn updates. They just poofed, gone. Some were later spotted working for consulting firms with government contracts. Coincidence? Maybe. But as Joe Rogan said on his podcast, when people bail before the storm hits, it's because they already saw the radar. And he's right, this timing was too convenient. One insider even leaked that Charlie's audit had been scheduled for public release the very next week. A bombshell that would have exposed the money trail connecting donors, lobbyists, and foreign-linked PR firms. But then, Charlie was gone. That's when social media caught fire again. Reddit threads titled "The Audit That Killed Charlie" started climbing to the top of conspiracy subs. One viral post read, "You don't order a multi-million audit, uncover the dirt, and then suddenly vanish without questions. You get erased when your spreadsheet has the wrong name in the wrong column." Even Candace doubled down, saying on stream, Charlie wasn't paranoid, he knew. He told people he was ready to shake the tree, and that's exactly when they cut it down. Then came the cherry on top. Reports surfaced that all audit-related files were sealed within 48 hours of his death. Normally, internal documents take weeks to process. This, lightning fast. It's like someone hit delete on history itself. And the silence from Turning Point USA, deafening. One brief condolence post, a few lines about carrying on Charlie's legacy, then radio silence. No mention of the audit, no talk of missing funds. And not a single acknowledgement that the entire story reeks of something deeper. Even mainstream journalists started whispering about it behind closed doors. One anonymous source told an indie outlet, every time someone requests audit files, they get a polite pending review response. It's been months. Nothing's been released. It's like the audit died with him. Which is why the internet now calls it the audit that wouldn't die. Because even though the documents vanished, the story refuses to stay buried, like a ghost in the server. It keeps coming back, haunting everyone who tries to ignore it. Transition. But if you think money and politics make a dangerous cocktail, wait until you see who's holding the glass next. Because when Charlie's gone and Erica steps in as CEO like it was pre-scheduled, let's just say, people started asking if grief came with a corporate promotion clause. You ever notice how in movies, series, the moment the king dies, the camera slowly pans to the queen, already sitting on the throne. Yeah, that's exactly how the internet described what happened next. Because just days after Charlie Kirk's sudden and very public death, before the country could even process the chaos, Ericakirk wasn't just grieving, she was promoted. The ink on the condolence posts wasn't even dry yet, and boom, the press release drops. Ericakirk appointed as new CEO of Turning Point USA. No build-up, no board meeting footage, just snap, and she's running the empire. And that, my friends, is when the speculation meter hit red. The internet went into full detective mode, comment sections turned into crime boards, Reddit threads lit up with titles like "From Widow to CEO in 72 Hours, Coincidence or Coup?" and "Was the promotion part of the plan?" Now, to be fair, plenty of people tried to play it classy at first. Oh, she's just continuing his legacy, they said, but when users started digging deeper, cross-referencing timestamps, announcement drafts, and archived pages, things got spooky. Turns out the internal memo announcing her new role, it was allegedly created the same day Charlie died. Let that sink in. While the public was mourning, someone inside Turning Point HQ was formatting a leadership update, like it was pre-scheduled. Joe Rogan called it the fastest corporate succession since Game of Thrones, and he wasn't wrong. Even Candace Owens chimed in during her live stream, throwing subtle shade wrapped in a prayer emoji. She said, "I respect anyone continuing their spouse's mission, but leadership transitions that fast. That's not grief, that's governance." Cue the internet losing its collective mind. But what really set everyone off was how composed Erica seemed. At Charlie's memorial, she didn't cry, didn't shake, didn't break down on camera. She looked steady, stoic. To some, that was admirable. To others, it was terrifyingly calm. Clips of her speech circulated online with captions like, "Is she mourning or managing? She's running a company like she's running damage control." And then came the money angle, because of course it did. Remember the audit that wouldn't die? Well, guess who now controls access to all those records? You guessed it, Erica. The same files Candace Owens said could shake foundations are now locked under a CEO who hasn't said a word about them. No interviews, no press briefings, not even a token, "We're looking into it." Instead, under her leadership, Turning Point suddenly pivoted, doubling down on the same pro-Israel and high donor messaging Charlie was reportedly about to question. It's almost as if the machine didn't just keep running, it sped up. And here's where Joe Rogan's podcast went nuclear again. He said, quote, "You don't just step into that kind of role unless you were already in position. This looks rehearsed, like someone had the playbook ready before the whistle blew." Boom. The internet exploded. Again. Fans began posting timelines comparing Erica's statements before and after Charlie's death. For warm, supportive, out of the spotlight after, laser-focused, headline-ready, calling herself the guardian of his mission. And the biggest question became, whose mission? Was she continuing Charlie's or rewriting it? The theory split the internet in half. One camp sees Erica as a loyal partner stepping into chaos to save the organization. The other sees a calculated power move, one that conveniently erased the man who might have been about to blow up the entire system. But the eerie silence from Turning Point itself only made it worse. No transparency, no board statement, no detailed audit follow-up, just a handful of quotes about moving forward in Charlie's vision. Except, his vision was changing. He was reportedly about to expose things, question things, audit things. And now the only person who can control that story is the one sitting in his old chair. But if you think that's wild, wait till you hear what Joe Rogan said next, because the isn't about boardrooms or emails. It's about a quote that went viral for all the wrong reasons. The next fact, the line that lit the internet on fire. And trust me, once you hear what he said, you'll never look at this story the same way again. You ever hear someone drop a line so simple it shuts down the entire internet for a minute? Well, Joe Rogan did just that. 3 words: calm, steady, and cold enough to freeze Twitter. Things don't add up. Now, Joe wasn't yelling. He wasn't ranting. He just leaned back in that iconic studio chair, stared into the mic like he was talking to the universe itself, and said it like he'd just solved or exposed something massive. And boom, the internet detonated. Hashtags like #RoganExposes and #things done it up took over overnight. Clips of that moment were everywhere, from YouTube shorts to TikTok edits set to dramatic violin music. Even news outlets couldn't resist. CNN ran a segment titled "Joe Rogan's Comments Ignite Chaos Over Kirk Case," while Reddit's conspiracy boards turned into full-blown detective squads. But let's rewind for a second, because what Rogan said before that mic drop moment might be even more shocking. He went down the list like a prosecutor in a Netflix true crime doc. The rifle that magically switched from modern to antique. The witness who turned out to have a background straight out of a thriller. The sealed FBI files. The missing footage. The widow who went from grieving spouse to CEO in chief faster than you could say press release. And then he hit the audience with the real kicker. You're telling me all this went down in a major university with cameras everywhere, and somehow, no one has clear footage of the shooter. No timeline that makes sense. Nah, man, that's not coincidence. That's choreography. That word, choreography, sent chills down people's spines because it didn't sound like a conspiracy theory. It sounded like a guy who'd seen enough weirdness in media to recognize when a story's being stage managed. He didn't accuse anyone by name. He didn't have to. He just connected the dots that were already in plain sight and let the audience do the math. And here's the scary part. People did. Within hours, internet detectives started re-editing clips, syncing timelines, matching timestamps between Candace's live streams and official press briefings. And sure enough, the timelines didn't match. Candace was talking about a suspect before the FBI had even officially named one. Footage that was supposedly new had already been circulating online for days. And Rogan, sitting there with that skeptical grin, just said what everyone else was afraid to. Either someone's lying or we're living in a simulation. That line? Yeah, it broke the internet again. The comments section on his podcast turned into a virtual bonfire of theories. He knows something he can't say. This feels like a distraction. Why do all roads lead back to the audit? If Erica's clean, why stay silent? Even mainstream outlets that usually roll their eyes at Rogan had to admit something about this case wasn't making sense. And here's where it gets meta, because Rogan's entire tone shifted. You could hear it. That half-joking, half-serious mix he does when he knows the truth's being buried under PR statements. I don't care who you are, when the same few people benefit, when the same networks control the story, and when silence follows every question, that's not closure, that's a cover. Boom, another viral moment. Twitter caught fire again, with users posting clips side by side. Rogan's statement on one side, Erica's eerily calm TV appearance on the other. Caption, two sides of the same story, but only one looks rehearsed. The irony, Rogan didn't accuse Erica directly. He didn't have to. His pause, his tone, his refusal to fill the silence, that did the damage, because silence in this case said everything. And just when fans thought he was wrapping it up, Rogan hit them with one last jab. Casual, almost like he didn't realize the gravity of it. You ever wonder why the people closest to the story are the quietest? Yeah, me too. That was it. That's all it took. Millions of views, tens of thousands of comments. Even journalists were admitting they couldn't ignore it anymore. And here's the punchline nobody saw coming. The FBI's official press page crashes for 48 hours straight after Rogan's episode drops. The flood of traffic? Off the charts. Everyone wanted to check the facts, except conveniently, the key pages about the Kirk case were under maintenance. Coincidence or confirmation? Joe didn't say. He just smiled, took a sip of whiskey, and signed off with, "That's all I'm gonna say for now, but keep your eyes open. This story's not done yet." But if you think Rogan's final words gave you chills, wait till you hear what Candace Owens said after that episode dropped. Because, yeah, it's where things go from suspicious to straight up cinematic. So here's the real question. Is this a tragedy, a cover-up, or a chess move we weren't supposed to see? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who's telling the truth? Joe, Candace, or someone we haven't met yet? And before you go, hit that like button, subscribe if you love a good mystery mixed with political chaos, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next episode. Because trust me, this saga's just getting started.